Welcome back, one and all, to Podstars, the Podstars podcast. It is me once again doing a nice intro of a double bill of Release Ramble. I've been absolutely inundated with bands wanting to have a chat with me and me wanting to have a chat with them as well. I've reached out to a few bands as well who have actually come back, and it's just been an absolute pleasure to chat to these groups of people who have such passion for music. They want to talk about their releases, their upcoming stuff, some parts of things that have just happened in the past that they're very excited about bringing back, some re-releases, all kinds of stuff is going on in the pop punk scene, as it were. And even today, I only got back from a trip. You might have seen on the story, I got back from Loughborough just yesterday, so I've been panically editing to try and get something out for this weekend. But I'm super excited about this one because obviously, for those who have seen, previous mediums that I've put out, a few videos, I did a video on the band Farhampton back in 2021 for their release of The Lives We Leave Behind, which was probably one of my proudest moments in terms of content making. It was such an enjoyable video to make about an album and I genuinely really, really liked, and a band that I really like as well. They had their brand new single Wishful Thinking come out, I think it was last Friday. At the time of recording this, it's the weekend after that release. I think it was the 13th or maybe the 12th that it came out. I think it might be the 12th of April. And since then, their brand new music video has come out. I think that was yesterday as well. So they've got a load of stuff going on. Obviously, we wanted to tie it in with the single and the music video as well. And this is why this is coming out this week as opposed to last week. I thought last week I could put something out, but I thought I want to take time, listen to their music and get this one out for when the music video releases, so they have properly just time to think about it. I feel like releasing something when I haven't listened to the song was kind of counterintuitive to what I'm meant to be doing anyway. But it's just been such an exciting time to be a podcaster for music at the moment, particularly in the pop punk scene, because, meeting guys like this who, the fact that they even liked my video as well, they say that they go back to it every once in a while just to have a laugh, and like that, it's so gratifying to have that from a band that I do deeply respect, and I simply can't thank them enough for coming on. It was an incredible conversation about the Chicago music scene. Obviously that's where they're based, and the amount of bands that have come out of Chicago as well has been just phenomenal. I think Fall Out Boy, Rise Against, Knuckle Puck, Home Safe, so many. I think Belmont was another one as well who recently had their album come out. It's been such a hefty place for pop punk, and just the general scene itself seems really lively. Makes me really want to go. It's quite a distance, but regardless, they had a great chat about their new song, what it means. It's their most personal song that they've ever written, considering it's been 3 years since they released anything. It talks about personal loss, and just, I think it was an interesting comment on how everyone sort of gravitates to it in a different way. I obviously wrote a recommendation about it that talked about how it's about past relationships and how you feel about certain people and how you get over that feeling of dread and guilt and all these different feelings. And it was an interesting point that they made about how it really touches different people in so many different ways. It's a very, very versatile song, I'd like to think. So I'd love for you to go and have a listen to it before you listen to this. It's Wishful Thinking by Farhampton. It came out last week. It's an excellent tune. You'd absolutely love it. And they're really back on form. And honestly, I'm just really excited to share this episode with you because they're such genuine guys, have such a love and passion for what they do. And I'd like to think that following a video and a podcast, we're actually good friends, which is really nice to think about. So I hope you guys enjoy. I had an absolutely lovely time with them, so I hope you do too. And I'll see you on the other side. I was literally just reminiscing as well, because I remember the last time we were in contact was 3 years ago when I made an incredibly silly video about your EP.
Oh no, we loved it.
I rewatched it about a week ago when we agreed on this, and I was like, my God, what was I thinking? But yeah, I'm glad you liked it, because I looked back and went, wow, that was me clearly very bored and in my house thinking of what to do. But it's a testament though, because I have since re-listened to The Lives We Leave Behind and remembered how much I enjoyed it. So
Thank you.
It's been very good. How's it been since all that? Well, since that disgusting video came out.
Oh man, a lot of life going on. We played a lot of shows. Like I think initially, like COVID, everything opened up. We played a handful of shows around Chicago, and to cross off some venues, some bucket list things that we wanted to do, and then about maybe a year after that came out, life hit. Parent problems. My father-in-law got sick, and passed away, and then my mother passed away shortly, like in about a year after that happened. So we had a lot of like crazy things. Meanwhile, 3 of the guys were getting married. after I'd already been married. So we had a lot of life that happened. So I think it's like I said this in a post. We don't plan to take 3 years between every release that we do. It just shit happens. So but otherwise, I mean, it's been good musically. I think Ricky, I don't know, add your thoughts too here.
I mean, yeah, I think Eric summed it up pretty good. It was kind of like a big mess for most of us, and a lot of personal things happened. So that's the biggest reason. And honestly, also, we all ended up getting basically married in some way, shape, or form. And so that took a long time. A marriage and a wedding takes a lot longer than you anticipate, to be honest.
Yeah, God, I can only imagine. I mean, I've got a whole bunch of things to happen before that, but like one of my best friends is getting married next year, and he's just telling me about all the planning. Just like, my God, that's a long pro. Well, congratulations and all to all of you. To be honest, that's a huge few years, and I guess do you think wishful thinking sort of encapsulates all of those feelings in one go? Obviously, I wrote about it a couple of days
Yeah.
ago upon its release, and the music video, which this is for, is coming out on Friday. Do you feel that like that as a concept sort of encapsulates everything you felt?
A good majority of it. I mean, a lot of it really, to be honest, is very focused on, my father-in-law and my mother, just based on, who's writing it and who's kind of presenting the idea. But the way that it's connected with the rest of the band, hearing it, and I think even your write-up the other day, themes of like love and heartbreak and just the navigating of relationships, I think is like a direction I did not even read into as we were writing it and recording it, just because it's so personal. But I think it speaks well to a lot of the challenges people had, even coming off of COVID, just either losing touch with friends, losing touch with people, and obviously for us personally, a very, very couple of life changing events that will shape everything that we're doing from here on out.
And Ricky, do you think the same as well?
I was gonna say, yeah, definitely. You know, I feel like it definitely encapsulates a lot of the things that we've all gone through. Not just as a band, but also other people that can relate to it. In the sense that everyone's lost a loved one, I'm sure, and if you haven't, it's very heartbreaking. And I think this song there encapsulates basically like just how we feel about it and uh, how people react to it. It's not an easy thing to get over, and it's a forever going process, and you will always miss those people. So,
Hmm.
yeah, I think that encapsulates it really well.
And it must have been such in those few years, the balance between the positive and the negative must be quite an experience, being able to manage all of those emotions in one go must have been really hard.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think absolutely. And I think all of us had our own balancing acts that we kind of had to work through. For me, it's like I was navigating going back and forth between two states to, care for people. And that, takes an emotional toll that I think you navigate differently than if you're 5 minutes away from a parent or a partner or trying to manage that. Same way you manage any long distance relationship, you have to take certain things into account that you wouldn't normally, just based off time. I think this one has a little bit more of a dire situation to it as far as treatment and things like that. But for us, I think we all had our own journeys where we had to look at what it was doing to us individually and then the people we cared about. And I think you hear that, and hopefully you see that in both the music and the music video, kind of the push and pull of that, the energy as it shifts and changes. And like in the write-up, I know we mentioned too, like takes you on a journey to really see like, okay, here's initial stress, maybe you're wedding planning, maybe you're literally traveling, and then you go into a situation where, okay, now things are kind of slowing down. I'm having to deal with the realization of like, what does my life look like from here till at this point now releasing the song has changed even from us writing and recording it. So you really get a sense of our journey in listening to the song. And I think anybody else, again, whether they lost a parent, lost a friend, lost a relationship, a pet, whatever it might be, can relate to that in some way, shape, or form, and hopefully find solace in the song and the journey. And
I mean, I know it's only been out for like a few days, but how's the general response been so far? Do you feel like people are jumping in on the meaning behind it all?
Absolutely. I'll kind of take this. I feel like we've been getting the most positive feedback from this song than anything else that we've ever gotten. And I know that we kind of like I know I heard Eric kind of touch on like who we kind of wrote it for a little bit, and they haven't even seen the video yet, but I've gotten messages from friends, from like even further family members that may not have been reeling from any of the losses that I was reeling from. And it's the response is just overwhelmingly positive. And I try not to look at numbers too much, because I feel like I try not to care about those, not too much at least. But we do, but it's definitely the most well received when it comes to like actually hitting someone in the feels, you know. It's very rewarding, but it's definitely exactly why we wrote it. It's to help people feel those feelings when they don't necessarily know how to put them into words. Even I had to take a day to even try and say anything about the release, just because like I don't even know what to say. I feel like we've kind of laid it all out there. Um, like what else can I put out there that hasn't already been said? But yeah, overall, I am really enjoying seeing people share it, seeing people like just editing it to their own personal playlists. And I had a friend from college send me a message directly, just being like, it's so clear that you put everything into this song, and it's really helping me, like realizing that we also, like his band also was taking time to process their own personal losses and be like, okay, well, how do we get back on the saddle? And Eric, I know that that's maybe not even like the intended inspiration behind that, but now we're a part of that journey too for other people.
And it's something Eric actually said, because when I did my write up, I apparently found a whole other vein of like feeling towards it that nobody else had. And I guess that's just how sort of, I guess that's just how widespread this kind of message is, and that your song in general, that's just how many people it can actually, touch on different levels, be it personal or just on a grand scheme. I think it's great. It's clear that you guys just had a message behind it and went, we're going to go full throttle on that, and everyone will know exactly. Everyone will be able to grab it in one way or another.
And to touch base on that, like I think it's very impressive, like how much of a widespread we're actually casting on this song. What surprised me the most was just the other day. I think Jake also was kind of surprised by this. We got like a Spanish mini like review written about it, like with other songs of similar like pop punk emo-ish style, and I'm just like, wow, even in Spanish, like not saying that they're from Mexico, but just saying international kind of widespread message that other people can relate to it, even with different language barriers. I think it's really impressive.
I think Ricky, what I saw, I think it was like a Colombian, either just community or some sort of like smaller Colombian label. I don't remember exactly what it was, but knowing that we are able to reach people in South America or in the UK, Australia, anywhere. I know we've got at least two fans in like freaking Japan. It's crazy to just see like what people we are able to reach. And it's very rewarding, and we're just happy that we could have a message that they feel strongly for.
And I know it's not even the first time that you've developed messages like this. I know in Something's Missing in Lives We Leave Behind, that was a song mainly about anxiety and isolation and mental health. Like, do you feel that this song now is a more powerful message, or do you feel like this is another thing you're going to touch on in the future?
I mean, I'd like to say it's all three of those songs, I think, resilient even to a certain extent. They all touch on like trying to describe a very specific set of circumstances or very specific story that happened, and trying to find a universal way to say that. But I don't really have a good way of doing that universally. Like being like Wonder Years fans and like that kind of thing. Like there's a lot of very like either self-referential or like little tidbits of things that I think if you don't know us personally, you may not catch. But there's a lot that like as friends will be like, I remember that, or like you were obsessed with that song. It makes sense that that is part of a lyric that's here. And I think those just happen to be songs that really hit off with people, because I think it is so personal, and it is so laying bare kind of what you're feeling, what you're thinking, what you went through. It paints a picture in a way that I think just really resonates with people. It's a goal of mine, and all the music, that we write, specifically for maybe lyrics that I write. Um, it's just, it colors everything. And I think if somebody's able to take that and get their own message from it, or really just see what we're trying to convey, like to the T, on the nose, because they know us or they just have been through it, that's so rewarding. And, forget streaming numbers, forget playing shows at wherever it is, the more messages and things we get like that, I think that's what really kind of sort of fills the cup. At least for me, I assume for everybody else too, but it's definitely intentional. And I think definitely something we want to continue to explore. I just hope it's not for terrible circumstances, but the same message, the same idea, the same, I want to share something that's a part of my life with someone else and have them connect is definitely present.
Yeah, I think that we have definitely kind of solidified ourselves as a very intentional band. Whenever we talk about doing things, we are, anytime that we are creating any sort of content, it is very much like we need to make sure that we have a reason to be posting things, not just to be like, yeah, we got to post to be relevant, but like it's so hard to do that in general, and we want to feel real when we are connecting with our audience. And whether it's just our friends, our family, or fans that we're developing, we want to make sure that we are creating content that they want to see. And we are also, we have a message that is genuine and not just like, hey, look at this.
Not surface level, something that, I had this chat with a lot of people, and they say like they feel such a pressure to just churn stuff out because it gets numbers and it keeps you sort of engrossed, or keeps your fans engrossed because you're putting stuff out. But I guess when you mentioned like, oh, we don't plan on doing every 3 years, but sometimes
Right.
that's just how it is, and that's just part of the journey, I guess.
Exactly. It's been weird. I mean, like every single time that we've released new music, it seems like, yes, we don't plan on that gap, but life does happen, and we got to take care of some of that stuff first. But sometimes we know, like, all right, man, life just happened. We're gonna release some banger songs next.
As you have. Well, I think another thing I touched on was like how it like sort of blurs the line between melancholy and upbeat. Do you find it quite hard writing such, like including quite touchy themes and quite deep themes in a sort of inherently upbeat pop punk emo track? Because obviously a lot of bands do it in the genre, but have you found any particular difficulties with doing that?
I don't think so. Like, it, I think for us both, in our writing styles, they tend, like, the ideas tend to follow each other. And I think it's entirely what we're going through, entirely personal in what we're writing. Like for Wishful Thinking, it was very much like, I just, here's a song that feels fun to play rhythmically. Like, let's just do something that, like, I literally just put my head down. Like, I don't even know what I'm doing. This song is like 5 minutes long. It's not going to be 5 minutes long when we're done with the demo, but like, it just felt good to play. And then it was like, okay, I have an idea, I have a melody. You're just going to write naturally what comes to your head at that time. And some of it is you have to face the things that maybe are more challenging or more present in your life at that given time. But I think we write music that is fun to play for us and fun hopefully for the listener to hear. I think we also take a little bit more pride in trying to be more, I guess, pop focused. Like, we want to make sure there's a good hook. I have a story that a coworker of mine, older guy, loved music, loved live music, more of a rock guy, listened to our first EP, You'll Never Take My Side, and he was like, great songs. Where's the hook? And I tell that story all the time because I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, okay, I think I'm writing a hook. I think I'm writing something that is catchy and it's also personal, but like there was something missing. Make the joke. Hey.
Yeah.
Um, and then we just that sort of idea adapted itself. I think, working with the producer that we do and Roy Robley is like very much you kind of come in with that mentality from the jump. So writing very positive, fun music to play, but I think just still maintaining that authenticity and that genuine article when we're writing lyrics is it's not necessarily hard to me. Maybe I'm perfectionist and that it takes a long time to get it right, but it's not necessarily difficult. It just feels right.
Yeah, I think to kind of piggyback off of that, I mean, I've said it before that my favorite experience being with Farhampton was when we were writing Something's Missing, because it was the first song that we were able to kind of build together from the ground up rather than it being like, all right, Eric has a song, he's going to bring it. Jake has a song, he's going to bring it. It was the first time that we like Eric had like, I have this idea and he's like, here are these lyrics. And then I was immediately like, okay, I was looking at it. I was like, let's simplify this. And then it was like, ba, 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 ba. And I was like, all right, well, that's it. That's that. There we go. We got it. And that was kind of like the defining moment. I was like, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to do things. And like, we're both now going to make each other better songwriters now because we're able to see how we write separately and then think of, okay, what would Eric say? Or how would Eric sing this? Or I don't know from Eric's perspective, but it might be like, okay, maybe let's fix the hook a little bit, see if we can make this a little bit more, a little catchier, that kind of thing.
Do you feel like now it might have not changed, from the start, but like, do you feel now it's a much more cooperative process? Like you write songs as a group of four rather than just everyone playing a little role in each.
100%. 100%. I think it was hard, I think, in some ways being a trio when we first started. I mean, we had a brief stint with a guitar player, but he was playing on songs that primarily were written before he came in and just kind of adding flourishes. I think hard as a trio when you feel a lot of pressure on like a guitar player, a lyricist, whatever it is, like one person doing a lot is hard, and you kind of, confirmation bias and all those things can rear their ugly head. But it's nice having, a collaborator, in Jake's case with this, having fronted and written songs for his old bands and coming into this, it offers a fresh perspective that I think plays on the characteristics that we like in each other when we were both in separate bands, but then just pushes each other to be their best. And I think from a holistic perspective too, we say let Dale's the best musician in our band as drummer. Like part of it is you have to be, because you're the rhythm, you're the heartbeat of this whole thing. But having a producer like Roy, who is a drummer himself, multi-instrumentalist, like very focused on what he's doing, he brings out the best in us too. So we don't even have like the four of us helping each other. It's an extended group when you look at production, when you look at even like significant others that like have to hear and listen to a practice, or friends that go to shows and hear songs played live before we've recorded them, because like, oh, we're excited, we want to play that, and like, oh, that's really good, but I'm curious about this. You take all the feedback and I think try to make it the absolute best that it can be, and it works really well for us. I think we've had a lot of success with the couple of songs, well, I guess like the 7 songs that we've had in that vein, and then the one that'll come out later this year as well. So we'll give a little bit of a teaser on that one.
We'll get into that.
That, it just is a really great experience. I think it makes us all better than we were as individuals.
Absolutely. We have definitely been a lot more, especially with these two, like this release and then the upcoming one, we've all been more perceptive of people's like input. Especially with this one, because like the echoes in the like final chorus were Ricky's idea, and that elevated this song even more. I think that was just it's like a little bit, it's still us coded, it's still Farhampton coded, because we already did kind of a call and response in Portland, and now we're kind of like doing something related to it but in a more emotional vein. Ricky, do you have like a reason why you suggested that in the studio, or was that just something that you heard as soon as you heard that chorus?
So as soon as I heard the chorus, playing along with the same vibe of like, I was gonna say the sense of something's missing. I felt like at the end of the song, it needed something to captivate, basically like, hey, we need like kind of like that callback, echo it, kind of thing. I didn't want it to be more so like a guitar melody, but something vocally that we can work with. And I think the song definitely captivates like all of us in some way, shape, or form. Because I remember when we first started working on the song, we were just like basically in Eric's basement and just in a circle. And what's it called? I felt like the song was written fairly easy. It just came natural for us. And I don't know, I just really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the whole process. And yeah, I don't know what caused me to say, hey, let's do that echo part, except for I'm like, hey, I think this would sound really great. Call it luck. So I don't know. Like Eric said, Dale is the best musician. So this was more of
And
a
he's,
luck than
and he's the
anything
only one
else.
that's not here.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
What a
So
chump.
I'll have to take your word for it on that. But I'm sure he is. Well, I guess you've had such a wild ride with the whole band. Like you keep mentioning something's missing, joke or not intended. But do you feel that this latest single is probably your best work, or do you feel like it was inspired by stuff you'd already written in the first place?
It's my new favorite. I'll say that because Something's Missing was my favorite for a long time. And now that and I will say that with our last EP, I over listened to it before it was even out. I listened to it every single day. And I was like, man, these are great songs. And then when everything came out, I was like, I am tired of it. So I tried not to do that this time around. And when I was listening to my Spotify release radar, it just like I knew it was going to be on there, but I put the thing on shuffle. And when it came on after, that new Scene Queen song, I was like, sweet, this is, oh man, I'm so excited that this is on this playlist. And other like friends of ours were also on my release radar. And just hearing those songs one after another was awesome. And I think this is my personal favorite.
So I think piggybacking on what Jake said, Something Missing was definitely one of my favorites. I honestly thought that it was going to be very hard to match that type of like excitement, and honestly, this kind of surpassed it. It surprised me a lot just when it came together. Like when we were first at the studio, I was just like, I was a little antsy. I tried not to show it as much. I was a little antsy, thinking like, okay, this is going to be a good song. This is going to be, and then I kept thinking in the back of my head, I'm like, man, it's going to be hard to beat. Something's missing. Let's see how this goes. And then by the time Dale was done and the guitar started coming in, I just felt so much energy and I was full of excitement because I was definitely nervous. I think I'm the one of the most anxious ones out of the group. So, but I try to keep it hidden.
I mean, Eric, you've got your back is literally the song, whether that's for advertising purposes or just the fact that you love it. I can only presume you're a fan.
I was very frustrated. We have to do dumb Zoom backgrounds for work all the time. And I was like, why did I not do this for something that is like I'm passionate about? So you get this, all that the hard graphic design work hours that were put into this had to go to use. No, I mean it's my favorite for many a reason. I mean, like like personally, I just think like for me honoring, my father-in-law was a drummer and played in bands a shit ton, in Michigan and like just from a kid on up. And I think that plus like just, like it being such a personal song for both him and my mom, like it's my favorite because of what it does to honor those people. It's my favorite because it just seemed like one of the simpler things, but I think too, we were very conscious in this single and then like the other single that we recorded in the same jump to leave room for production ideas, to leave room for cool things that we could add in that like let's have a really great bass song. We have some really great ideas of like here's what we could do to pop this part or to make this better or here's something that sounds cool live. And then have Roy come in or us, listening to it back in the studio and come up with new ideas and things to elevate it even further. And that's kind of a first for us. Like we usually have been recording something and we're close to running out of time on a session, and maybe we don't get to do everything that we would want to do. Like an example, The Lives We Leave Behind is a great song. I think it's still probably one of my favorites, up there with like Something's Missing as well. But I think back of different things I would maybe want to do vocally, or different instrumentation we'd want to add in towards the end to give like more epic feeling and things like that. And we just, you run out of time, you don't have all the capabilities to do what you need to do, that we wanted to make sure we had specific time and specific moments to do that here. And I think it worked out really, really well for us. I'd say this is probably my favorite currently. It will always kind of be a neck and neck thing. There's some older songs too that I like, that I think are just, again, really important. Something like a Playing on Repeat, I think is something we keep that in our live set a lot. So that all these songs feel really, really good. And I think they've all had similar reactions to people's connection and callbacks. And I had a friend whose Repeat was their previous like favorite song. And he's like, these are your best lyrics yet, when Wishful Thinking came out. And I think that just says a lot, that it's like, I hope that we can continue to top ourselves and get better, because ultimately you want to do that. If you're passionate about your craft, if you love what you're doing, you want to get better every step of the way. So I hope that we're doing that here.
And you seem so confident in it, because obviously going back to like, what was it, 2016 when you first started, and you had Best Known for Holding Grudges, and you were none of my closest friends, you and none of your closest friends, I think it was, going way back to the past. I can only presume that you feel like the confidence you have in your voice, you sound like you yourselves think you've developed to like such a degree from then. Even from your first EP, You'll Never Take My Side, I was listening to that the other week and I was like, this is still good, but you can tell that you've taken like a whole other shift to like another level.
Oh, absolutely. Jake, I mean, you weren't here for that, so I'm curious your perspective on the old stuff compared to now.
Well, oh man. Well, first of all, you had a great amount of help with your voice, but even just like between where we left off and all of the new songs, you had a lot of help from myself, from other friends, and it was just like it's so clear that you listened and leveled up with your dedication, and that's huge. So that's one thing. And when I'm listening to the old stuff, I love those songs. That's a big thing. They're so fun to play, and I hear that confidence shift in your voice from each kind of thing. I listen to Playing on Repeat, and like that is easily probably like my favorite song from that EP. But then also I listened to that and then Resilient back to back, and it's just the amount of confidence that is put into Resilient is it's so clear that there's even more passion than before. I think that's what it is. And there are definitely times where we could, when we're doing demos, I hear like, okay, like this is good. Let's elevate it, and it happens now. Like I hear that passion come through, and it's so much more fun as soon as that there's a lot more feeling behind it.
Definitely. I feel like we saw Eric grow, and he definitely molded himself like into who he is today, based off of like all the practicing, dedication, and honestly, like we're all proud of him. And at the same time, never in my life did I like, when I was younger, I never thought like, man, why do artists do so many re-releases? Like, why do they come back and go make another song? And it's just like, oh, it's because they sound a lot better. And I think that's something we could expect in our future, like definitely down the line, not anytime soon, but definitely down the line, I could definitely see us going back and touching some of those songs and making them sound a lot more full. Because as a trio, it was a little difficult, and also we're all adults now, so we have adult money, and we can possibly make that sound a lot better for sure.
And that's the other thing too. Like for a really long time, I loved where we left off, and I'm still like, man, if I had joined like a month and a half sooner, like could I have been in on that, like that kind of thing? What would that song sound like with as a 4-piece rather than just you guys. And I'm not saying that song needs to be re-recorded, but it's also like a nice what if to think about. And even then, like, see, like, we debuted that song as the new 4-piece pretty much. And like, I told everybody, it's like, I wasn't in the studio with them, but I get to play those parts and kind of help the live experience just level it up. And it definitely did.
I
So,
think I think when
uh,
we play those songs, it sounds when we play them live, it sounds so much better
mhm,
than the
it's
recording, just
full.
because of it's full. The way that Jake is able to add flourishes throughout the song every now and then and stuff like that, it just makes it sound so much better.
I also will say, like, I'll tease this a little bit. Like, like the new one coming out is like kind of a love letter to all of my previous projects. Like, there are riffs and stuff that come from my first like band from high school that has a really weird long name, and then also my last band, Surface Level, which is why I laughed earlier. Is like we had a song named Pavement. Yep, yeah. You got
Just
we had a
remembered
song
us.
named
Just remembered I said that.
we had a song named Pavement that was kind of dedicated to a friend of mine, and now kind of like moving here is just like, okay, we have this new one that's going to come out, and it's kind of referencing old stuff, but it's utilizing the skills and passion that these guys have in addition to like my lyrics and my ideas and everything. But everybody in the band, including Roy, help that become adult Jake version, just like the Farhampton version of this song that I knew could be incredible. But in each stage of my life, it was just like at this point, and then I'm like, okay, this one, this is where it fits here for this band. I think this one references those people, those friends, those riffs, everything, and is exactly what I wanted this song to be.
I didn't realize how direct I was being when I said we didn't want it to be surface level.
Yeah.
we
I
love
didn't.
I love my guys, but yeah.
You made the Hakuna Matata joke in that video with like I don't have a cat, and just the way that you said that so confidently, I'm like, are you looking at my Instagram and you know that we have a cat now since we have two? And that was just like
I,
there's like perfect jokes that you throw in there, and I'm not just gas you up a little bit here.
oh,
Perfect
stop
jokes that
it.
you throw in that I'm like, you really do your research, you really know, you pay attention, and I just assumed you had that one in the chamber waiting to go.
Well, funnily enough, I mean, loads of people. I was literally chatting to a friend of mine just before this, who currently lives in Southampton, and I went to university there. So when I was filming that, I was currently at uni, and I just didn't tell anyone that I lived there. So when I made the joke, like it's like Southampton but really far away, I was actually about 5 minutes away from that sign, but it worked for me. And I think a load of people have said for me to go back to it, but I think I just need. I've got an well, I have an idea that I can't talk about because I haven't even properly planned it yet. But it's nice to hear actually because I always look back on that video and that was easily my favorite of all the ones I made. And I remember you guys coming back and going, "This was so dumb. I love it.
It's
It's great."
amazing.
But it's because I loved that record so much and I had so much to say about it, and I was able to get that joke. I honestly didn't know you didn't have cats. Well, I just made that joke because I thought it was funny. I'd seen The Lion King about a week before and I was like, that's what that reminds me of. I'm gonna go with that. But I appreciate it. I think that whole thing, especially with pop punk bands, is the fact that like while you can take yourself incredibly seriously with the whole thing, it is good to just like have the occasion, especially even with a song like this, to just let loose and have a bit of fun with it. And I think you guys carry that. You sort of walk that line very well because you're able to show, as I said in the write up, like you're able to find the upbeat and sort of optimistic side of everything while also going very in depth into the meaning of what it means to lose someone and the kind of feelings you get from that. So do you sort of do you agree with that as well and think that you're doing that so on a personal level as well in your own writing?
I would think so. I mean, not just writing. I think everything we do, from its content ideas to how we are in practice individually, like together, like coming up with ideas for merch. I mean, I don't know if you knew about the whole Rathole thing
rat
Like
hole
there
thing.
was a lot going on where like there was like a hole that was a dead rat in Chicago
Oh,
that they were gonna fill
yes.
in.
I saw
And like,
oh God, I think John Oliver did a thing about that on his show.
yeah.
I think I saw that, yeah.
But there's like a lot of like things that's like we're throwing around ideas. We're like, hey, let's do that shirt. And then we're like, that's a little too off the trend. Maybe we should do something else. But then it's like, here's a parody shirt idea that we're thinking of, or here's this thing, or here's that thing. And I think it's just like the ability to switch back and forth really quickly has done us well, both when you're dealing with like heavy topics like this. It's like, okay, maybe you can come out of that a little bit and back to the present moment. Or just like you need to pop the room and get a laugh. Like Ricky's usually pretty good for that. Dale's pretty good for that with some weird jokes every once in a while. I feel like Jake and I are the two serious ones in our own ways, but we all complement each other really well.
Was the rat hole thing that big of a deal? Was it
Oh
genuinely like
yes.
For about like
Yeah.
6 months, maybe.
Yeah.
Not even.
Like no joke. Someone actually got married at the rat
I
hole.
saw that, yeah.
Yeah.
The couple got married. There's like of all the places you could pick, you picked the rat hole.
I pitched us to play Rathole Music Fest, like right when the trend was dying, and so we'll see if we actually get added to the lineup. If it ends up being a thing, probably not.
I now have two reasons to go to Chicago to see you guys and see the rat hole.
So you might be able to
Cannot
kill
wait.
two birds with one stone. Or
Oh, two
kill
rats.
two rats with
Two
one
rats with one stone.
hole.
Yeah.
Two rats with one stomp.
It got really out of hand to the point where the neighbors in that area were apparently complaining, and they had like I guess we can call it a vigilante, where he would go in and try to fill the rat hole, and people would like go back and make the hole again. I'm just like, geez, man,
Just
this is commitment.
Yeah, it's like we just want a little bit of fun in this day and age. We have the rat hole, don't fill it in.
Exactly.
God, but it's like I imagine I was going through a little list because obviously you guys are based in Chicago and the pop punk scene there is rife, shall we say. Obviously, one of my favorite bands, Knuckle Puck, is from there. Home Safe, I know Rise Against, I think, were from there. And so many others. I mean, I imagine it's quite a lively community, specifically in that genre.
Absolutely. I
Holy
mean,
shit.
we were talking with our video guy for Wishful Thinking to tie everything back in, and Pavement coming up as well. He used to play in local bands, and just has done a lot of bands. He's done Real Friends videos. He's done Belmont, like other local Chicago and just across the country that are really good. And we were talking about this. We're like, yeah, I feel like when he was playing in bands, there were a lot of new bands on the come up. Like, at the time, like you have like your Real Friends, Knuckle Puck, Home Safe, Sleep on It, Belmont, Action Adventure, and like some of those bands are still going. Some of them have been canceled. And now there's like some new ones coming in. What else do you want me to say, Jake? Let's just be honest. That's kind of what happened. So now you have like this new crop of bands, bands that we've played with, maybe slightly above us, bands that have been around, like a Guardrail, a Wolf Road, Four Stars.
I know Wilmette is another one as well, who I've been listening to a lot. Yeah.
We've played with them before too. And it's like,
they're great.
It's sort of bringing back some of those same feelings of, here's like 2014, 2017, a lot of bands starting to come together, build some footing, and just constantly playing shows with each other and like really developing a camaraderie that's really awesome to see. I feel like, we've played a lot of shows with a band called Bad Planning, and a little bit more punk leaning than pop punk, but similar sort of things. You build rapport with people, play shows, you're trying to help each other out, introduce to bands in Missouri or Milwaukee or Indiana or whatever it might be, and just grow the connections that you have. And you might not have that if you're playing in Oklahoma or Nebraska or something, that your scene's a little smaller. So, we do our best to try to make friends and play with as many people and have as many new experiences as we can. But there's so many bands, man. Like, you go through the list that our producer has worked with, and there's a lot that, some we played with, some we haven't, too, that just fit the genre. And then us being around for a while, we've seen kind of bands come and go too. And like, Jake, even in your experience of playing with like different bands before linking with us,
right,
you have a whole other set here from different states and things. It's just a melting pot, and it's really, really cool.
Yeah, I mean, the amount of like musicians that you watch come up and then fall, then have like a resurgence. I mean, like when I was in surface level, we played with like Mike Schiavo, who was on The Voice, and then the person who opened up was freaking MJ from Late Nights in My Car, and I had no idea that that was going to be her. And now Late Nights in My Car is back and doing like full band like bangers that are supposed to release here soon. And that group in and of itself is almost like a super group with a few people there too. But it's crazy to see, and knowing that my band was kind of one of those like up and coming, like quote unquote up and coming bands that were like, never mind, like we gotta go our own ways. I'm glad I was able to, you know, make friends with another local band and then get to this point. I didn't know what was going to happen when I was still like right out of college and seeing what I thought my fate was to only play in church bands, and here we are.
Yeah, it's such a. I mean, I can't say the same for the UK to be honest. But every time I look and find a new band, I'll be like, oh, where are these guys from? Okay, it's one of like three places, and Chicago's mainly. It does come up a lot, which is a good thing because like I can only imagine that there's constantly stuff going on, and it's got such a rich history of it as well. I know, like I think it's Alkaline Trio, Fallout Boy as well. Like those, some of the bigger names are from there. Do you almost feel like you have to live up to that kind of name, considering you're, from Chicago? Is that like a common thing for smaller bands?
I mean, it's the best way to compare our sound. Like,
Yeah.
if you're talking to a Chicago music fan, you get to be like, yeah, we're more on the Alkaline Trio, or like on this song, it's definitely more of a Fall Out Boy feel, like that kind of thing. And with like, and then even like broadening it a little bit more to help other people understand, or making it more a little bit niche. So like sometimes we reference non-Chicago bands, but we get compared to quite a bit, is the best way to kind of like help people know what we sound like, and that way they can make an informed decision and be like, okay, yeah, I like that band, so I'll check you guys out. And I'm like, I'm not really a fan, but I'll give it a listen, see what it's like, that kind of thing.
There's only so many times you can go up to like someone at what I guess is close to now our age and older, and what do you sound like? Blink 182. There's only so many times you can do that and not like die a little inside because you're not able to talk about all these like passionate bands. So I think now as you have like our age group and slightly above, like the whole emo pop punk resurgence with like when we were young, it's a lot easier to talk about. And I think that's helping a lot of bands too, where they go, hey, are you a fan of Yellow Card? And they're just back. Well, we sound like Yellow Card, or Academy is, or MCR, like whatever these bands are that inspired them along the way. I think they're able to now reference that, and it's connecting with a different audience and just broadening that scope, which is really nice.
I was going to say for quite some time, I think the one that Eric's voice was compared to the most, just with like some of my friend group, was actually Panic at the Disco.
What's interesting?
And I don't think Jake was expecting me to say that either. So.
I don't think
no, I was ready for a day to remember.
Like, yeah. No, no, not at all. For me, it was honestly a lot of people compared it to Panic at the Disco, like Eric's voice, and honestly, I don't hear it. I don't see it at all either, and it kind of surprises me. Even,
I mean, I can hear Jeremy from A Day to Remember. That was what I was going to say. So Panic at the Disco was definitely a surprise.
Yeah, no, even my wife was just like, I can see it, I guess, and I'm just like, I don't see it.
Like, I do a mean $20 nosebleed of Patrick and Brendan in the shower, but that's about it.
Oh no.
I mean, would you take sounding like Panic at the Disco?
Yeah, I'm fine with that. My wife loves Panic at the Disco. She'd probably really enjoy that.
Hey,
it's better than being called like Adam Levine or something when you're like in high school and college just because you have the same haircut. Like that's totally wild.
I think for our like we usually try to do a Halloween show. I think we should do a cover band of someone that we can all expect. So just Panic at the Disco would be really fun.
No, we should do wrestling themes only. I'm gung ho, man. I've started learning like 4. So
I'm sure quite a few people would actually enjoy that, especially
I
from
certainly would.
Group. Yeah,
I'd be up for that.
This is the moment where I turn off my background which I'm reticent to do here.
If not, it's just endless wishful thinking advertisement, which is
It
fine.
just got bigger.
Yeah,
I was gonna say it'd
see
be funny
that.
if like Eric has a flag of wishful thinking behind him.
I was gonna say, yeah.
Kind of like how Sting takes off his mask and then there's another one.
Oh man,
It's just the Spider-Man meme of two wishful thinking posters looking at each other.
Right. Well, that's a different shirt.
yeah.
Perfect.
I have a bunch of wrestling figures behind me. I was going to try to show them, but it's not working. So
Oh well, I mean, wrestling's. I don't know what the culture is here at all. I've got a few friends that are into like lightweight and heavyweight, but I don't know how. I imagine the WWE out there and stuff is quite huge. Not that I would know
Yes.
for sure.
Yeah, WrestleMania just happened and that was pretty big. So
That was.
it's a
I
big
mean,
deal.
I think recently it's become less and less of like oh, what a weeb, kind of thing. I feel like more people are like, no, pro wrestling's kind of fun to like watch and participate in and just enjoy it because it's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
So
I
just
think it's actually,
enjoy it.
that's really funny coming from Jake because originally he wasn't about it. He would get upset. When
That's true.
He would get upset when I was like, "Are you talking about real wrestling or pro wrestling?" And then he would say real wrestling. I'm like, "Oh yeah, I like WWE too," just to like mess with it.
That's true. I was on the wrestling team, and then like a year ago, I was like, I did theater. I did choreographed like fighting. Let's go train. Let's see what it's about. And then it got expensive, so I had to stop. But now I'm like a big fan along with these two fucking meatheads. So here we are.
Maybe I'll have to have a look. But it's other things like baseball. I know I haven't followed the Chicago Cubs at all. I don't know if you guys even support them at all. But like that American football, I just don't understand. I mean, I don't know if you guys do you watch rugby at all? Because we just had the Six Nations over here.
Not really.
Yeah,
Rugby is not very popular here. Sadly.
I didn't think so.
Not
I didn't
at
think
all.
this is the disconnect.
Should be.
Yeah, I love rugby. Such fun. But I that's just one of the differences, unfortunately. My friend tried to get me into American football and he put me as the quarterback, but I was utterly useless. So bad. What's the person that throws the ball underneath them to the next person when you start? Was that the quarterback?
The center.
The
center?
Is it the center? Yeah, I think that was what I started as. It didn't last long because I'm about as sporty as a deck chair, but it still happens. I'll try.
You just need to be an immovable object at that point.
Yeah,
that position.
I just need to be huge so nobody can get past me. Well, I mean, I guess like the culture out there in Chicago, music or sport or whatever is just very alive and kicking. Like as a city, is it quite? Because my mum has friends who have recently just moved there for work, and they've said like, oh, it's like nothing I've ever seen before. I guess because they originally lived in like a little village in the UK. But do you guys feel, having been denizens of there for a fair while now, like do you still feel that it's a big, like lively city?
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think you hit it right in the head. If you're not talking about either music or sports, it's going to be politics.
That's a whole other thing.
Yeah, exactly. That is a whole other thing. I do wish, what's it called? I guess here in America, they were more into what we call soccer and what you guys call football. Because I know, what's it called? I saw the movie Green Street Hooligans, and then like out of nowhere, I'm just like, oh my god, I wish I lived in the UK, kind of thing, because everyone's like so crazy about soccer.
Such a different culture over here for it. Like when the World Cup or the Euros, we've literally got the final games of our FA Cup, like the big football cup here.
Right.
And all of my friends at work are talking about it. Literally, we have at our place, well, the stuff we sell, we have like a little web chat or whatever. And someone asked on that web chat for this specific product, who do you think is going to win the Premier League? We were like, okay, well, that's an interesting question to ask us because we're not selling football players, that's for sure. But it's like even then we were surprised, and it's such a huge, talked about thing here. I mean, I'm not huge with it. Like I'm nothing compared to some other people in terms of fandom. But yes, so the actual city itself is madness. I mean, I need to go at some point. I've got so many places to visit in the US that I mean, I did a trip to New York last year, which was, tick that one off. But I feel like there's so many other cities that have just as much go. Oh, that was actually something I was going to ask. The song you did specifically about Portland, what's that about? Because that's a city that's on the other side of the country, from what I can remember. And I made a whole
Oh,
joke
God.
about I made a whole joke about that as well.
Holy shit. Ah,
Is there a relation? Like, do you know people in Oregon, or is it just
fucking Christ. All right. So that was like many relationships ago. That was the first song that I had like written that I was actually proud of after my college girlfriend and I broke up. And I don't know what she's up to. And the fact that it became like it like came to life in the most recent like full EP, I was like, I have no like I have to like think about these lyrics in a completely different light at this point, just because it started off as like this like I don't need you like breakup song, and now I'm looking at it and I'm just like, no, this is more of just like reflection on maybe don't be a piece of shit like like that kind of thing. Don't be mean to your exes, that kind of thing. And that's how I view that new song, and that's how I'm viewing the upcoming song too. It's just like be kind to yourself, and like recognize the shit that you've done, but also like sometimes you got to get these words out. And that's what Portland was like. My college girlfriend like and I broke up, and then she started dating a friend of mine, and then they moved out to Portland, and that's really the end of that story. Like there's more weird details that are in there, but really the premise is I don't see her anymore, and there's not really a reason for her to come back.
well,
That's really it.
thank you for sharing. I didn't realize the specific details of it. It was just another city it was just another American city that you mentioned. I was like, oh, that makes sense. I can talk about that. But
Yeah, I mean, it's just like and to be fair, I've never even been to the West Coast, like ever. Never even been over there, not for work, not for visiting, nothing. So it was just like, yeah, you're over there. Like, I'm gonna drop it. Who cares? Yeah. And
wow.
like the only time I've been to the East Coast is on like little baby tours or for work, and that's it.
Do
And
you
we've now referenced the East Coast.
do you have like any specific cities that do you have any specific places in the country, or maybe not in the country, maybe in a different country, that you hope to play in the near future? Because obviously if you came to London, I'd be like, I'm down there straight away. I'm not too far away, so but I imagine I don't know how far away a UK visit is.
Pretty long. But I feel like
It's a 6,000 mile trip, but we'll figure out the details later.
yeah,
We'll walk there. It's fine.
get some pelican cases. Just
Yeah.
call it a day.
I think it would be easier to just rent all the equipment out there than to travel with that.
Yeah.
Nah, Ricky,
You might be
it's
right.
not the Farhampton sound, man.
Oh my god!
It's not the Farhampton.
We have so many dumb inside jokes and show snafus.
I shouldn't have even said London. I should have said you can play Southampton and Northampton, and those are the only ones you can play.
Oh my god!
Well, then we can say we're far from the other one when we play.
Exactly.
Other.
So you
Yeah.
play Southampton and say if you're from Northampton, you're gonna have to go far, and then if you go to Northampton, you say everyone from Southampton, you're gonna have to go a long distance. It's a joke. Is it worth it for the novelty? I don't know, but I think it's funny.
So at one,
I'm gonna find friends out there.
So at one point when we were coming up with the name for Hampton, one of my
That was
friends,
the other thing I was going to ask.
one of my friends, Andrew, he literally says like, I understand because you guys want to live in the Hamptons, and no matter how far from the Hamptons you are, you will always have that Farhampton in your heart. I'm like, what did you just say to me? Like I was just like so upset, and it was funny at the same time.
Where did the name come from out of interest? Was it that, or was it just something completely different?
This is How I Met Your Mother. The easy description is in the latter half of the show, Farhampton is a town that like is the setting for an entire season and for a lot of key life events. And I feel like that was thrown out there as a suggestion because we were just really into the show by Dale. And we just kind of latched onto it. And now when we give the descriptor, it's like, oh, well, that kind of makes sense because like the way it's cataloged our lives and the changes and things that have happened in it mirrors the show, but really we're just big fans, and that's
Yeah.
where it came from. To tie back to where we want to play, I think,
Oh yeah, that's what we're talking about.
doing like a weekend, we're trying to figure out, like, do we do a weekender and some different things later in the year and trying to iron out details there. But I think, like, we've played in Wisconsin, we played in Indiana and Minnesota nearby, so like playing Michigan, playing Tennessee, playing these neighboring states that we haven't gotten the chance to go to, and like, again, make some new friends or bring some friends with us, if it makes sense. For me personally, Michigan is a place that I want to play just from the personal connection, and we may later this summer. We'll see, knock on wood. But I'm sure everybody else kind of has the same similar thing. Plus, there's so many venues in Chicago that if we can cross all of them off our bucket list at some point in time, maybe we won't play like an Aragon unless it's like some giant, music festival where you get a buy-in for your place in the lineup. But that's another conversation about American music festivals we won't talk about. Just doing stuff like that. I think, getting out there and seeing some new people. Jake, Ricky, what do you think?
No, yeah, definitely. There's a few places I definitely would want to play, like kind of like historical venues. That would always be nice. Places where famous people played. There was one that we played not that long ago where one of Jake's friends and the opener for the show, he's like, guys, what was it? Oh, what band
It
was
was
it that
Papa
played there?
Roach.
Yeah, he's like, guys, Papa Roach sat in this room, and I'm just like, oh my gosh. I mean that's nice and all, but that's not the first thing I think of when I go to a venue. I'm like, guys, Papa Roach played here.
They were like just there too. That's the funny thing. Like
Yeah,
Phil's wild. I love that guy.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's still so many venues we want to play that are in Chicago that are attainable now. Because initially it was like every other show that we were getting asked for, it was like Burlington Bar, or it was, we love that place. But we've played there so many times. Same thing with like the downstairs Subterranean. We played there so many times. We want to like play the upstairs or, of that same venue, or, just venture out, because there's still so many that we haven't played yet. And also on the other end, there's so many venues that we played that have closed. And it's weird to see that happen. But now we're at the point where we have like a little bit more pull and have a lot of friends in surrounding states that we could be like, let's go play the Hoosier Dome. Like, let's go play, not the original Hoosier Dome that's huge, but like Hoosier Dome, which is like hosts, smaller. It's very compared to for you guys, like Bottom Lounge ish, very much like attainable room size and everything. And that's something I want to play. We can go up to Milwaukee. We could go up to Detroit. We could go to Georgia and Nashville and probably have like show swapping opportunities. There are so many states that we could go to that are attainable, and we still have so many places here that we can play. And it's not endless, but it's not like there's gonna always be one place that we haven't played yet, and we gotta we're gonna try to get there.
Are there any bands like at the moment? I know we mentioned a few, but are there any bands at the moment that you would want to play with in the more modern scene? So either open for or just like, have on side.
I think with our current style, like the bigger bands that I think that we could go with is like Bearings.
Oh, love them.
Yeah.
Dude, they're
Love
so
them.
good.
They're so good. They
Ugh.
keep coming up in my life. My second episode of this entire show was about them and their album last year. Best part about being human. What a record.
Mhm.
Sensational stuff. Yeah, I'd if I could
Yeah.
ever get to see them live with you, oh, dream come true.
That's just the big one
Mm.
for me.
I mean,
I would
it's
love
not
to
wishful
play.
thinking. You play with them, or go to New Jersey and play Wishful Thinking.
I did an episode with them as well. Yeah, I mean that entire scene alone, completely different states. It seems you guys are all very tight knit and just like you all seem to know each other. It's great.
I mean, that's why we have our Farhampton and Friends playlist. I mean, whether they're internet friends or people we've met at shows, like we created that with that purpose of just like people that we know or are friends with releasing new music. let's have a place that can kind of put everybody together of all kinds of different genres, not just, pop punk, but we've got like friends in the pop scene. We've got like like Sergio does house music or something,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
And so we put him on that playlist. We've got, people who have done more metal stuff or more jam bandy stuff with Nick's new project. So it's like not you, Nick, but like former bandmate of mine
Didn't
is
know I
in
had a
like
project.
a like a blues rock jam bandy thing, and it's cool.
Yeah, it just seems like such a, I don't know. It's the kind of community I really want to see at least once, just to see a kind of gig out there and experience it in person. Because as much as like I've had a lot of gigs here in the UK, very local ones, and then some in London with my brothers that have been, massive. And I've seen Neck Deep at least 3 or 4 times now, because obviously they're Welsh, so they get around. But I feel like the US scene is just completely different. As much as I love Neck Deep, don't get me wrong, but like to see the Canadian bands and the US bands such as yourselves, I think is a whole other thing and a whole other community that I just once, and then I can be happy. I guess like sort of the final thing for this to wrap it up, as it were. Obviously, the new song's out, video comes out on Friday. What's next for Farhampton, as it were? What's set in the far future, if you will?
So we're looking at the second song we recorded with Roy this time last year will be coming out in the summer. I think we're still fine tuning some dates. We're filming a video in a couple of weeks for that song too. We've got a show that is kind of like it's on our Spotify, but we haven't really talked about. That'll be June 27th at Cubby Bear for our Chicago listeners who may hear this. Come and check us out. It's with Bad Planning that we mentioned earlier, and some other out of towners that we're making connections with. Probably some more shows in the summer around the release of Pavement and more promo, more podcasts, and just a lot more fun.
Mm. And do you have anything else to say to just, well, other bands out there or just people who potentially don't know you and are listening to this from my perspective? Like, what do you have to say to the new people?
I mean, I'm always astonished and really really appreciative, and I think all of us are, of you checking us out and listening to us, and even just if you like a song for the first time, that's amazing, something that you'll listen to and share with your friends. But if you're making a connection, if you're following us through our journey of catalog and just personal and enjoying what you see, we really appreciate it, and that's why we do everything that we do. We want to have fun with it, but we want to share that personal connection with people too, and we really really love what we do. We hope that comes across in our interactions with each other and interactions with you and anyone that we see at shows or around the area, and just the real genuine article.
We appreciate everybody that listens to us, but like we also just appreciate all of these other groups and bands and musicians that are around us. Like we've mentioned a few of them before, but we've got just such a big string of hard-hitting locals here that deserve more attention. I mean, we've got Four Stars, we've got Long Gone, we've got Wolf Road, we've got Risk has been getting a lot of attention recently. We've got all kinds of different other groups. I mean, Gold Steps put out a video around the same time that we released our single. And they're from like Milwaukee, and we love them. Glimmers is always super supportive of us as well, and we support them. Just so many different bands, and that's only a few. We've got all kinds of different bands and all kinds of different genres that we're friends with or that we know are just absolute killers in this scene and deserve all the attention that their music kind of calls for, I think.
Going on what Jake was saying, if you're listening to this podcast and you've gotten this far, you just know that Dale's the best musician we have. So if that's not a reason to come out and see us, the other thing is, just support your local music. There's a lot of good musicians out there that, deserve a lot of recognition, and without fans, it wouldn't be possible. And honestly, the fans are the ones that keep us going, receiving those messages of like, hey, I really connected with this song. Like, honestly, that's what kind of keeps me wanting to play in Farhampton. That means like so much to all of us in some way, shape, or form. Just giving like a small shout out, like our friend Alex, who's in Soapbox Deluxe. Like, it's impressive that for his drums, he does use programmed drums, but he also uses Game Boy Advance and Game Boy sound effects to make that sound, and it's just impressive. Like, I don't know, it's things like that that really keep us going. Just like thinking really outside.
I can't
Yeah.
really approve a message much more than support your local bands, to be honest. That's
Yeah.
the final punk stance, like honor of approval, whatever it's called, badge of approval. It's like, just do that. Well, and that's, I guess that's the epitome of what you guys are. You guys are that kind of band you support each other. You support everyone else who's in it, and I think it's very commendable to be doing that, especially when seemingly the industry has no time for independent artists nowadays. But you know what? I commend you regardless, and I cannot thank you enough for coming on. It's been brilliant. It's nice to meet you well, I say in person, but to actually like see you, considering it's been like 3 years in the making since that video came out. I'm gonna have to
love this.
I'm gonna have to rewatch it now just to make sure that I haven't embarrassed myself further. Yeah. Well, thank you very much, guys. It's been an absolute pleasure. And obviously, yeah, video comes out was 17th of April, isn't it?
Premiere is 17th on a friend's podcast, and then Friday they'll come out for the world.
Amazing. Well, thank you very much. Obviously, everyone who's listening, go out and listen to Wishful Thinking. It's an incredible track. Then Back on Form, and hopefully the next one's going to storm that even more. Apparently, we'll find out.
Thank you so much.
All right.
We
Thank
appreciate it.
you. Thank you for having us.
Anytime.